This conference will now be recorded.
Hi everyone, I welcome you all once again to the session number one, or you can say a demo session on MuleSoft. In this session, I'm going to give you a basic idea about MuleSoft as a product. Also, we'll talk about some of the basic concepts of integration, which are kind of prerequisite before you start learning any integration tool. And then I'll also take up your questions if you have any related to the relevance of this course in your career, or if you will have any technical questions, we can discuss those, right? So today's session will be somewhere around 70-80 minutes session, and you feel free to stop me wherever you come across any questions. So let's make it more interactive. I don't want this to be a one-sided wherein I keep on speaking and you just are on here only mode. So let's get started here. Okay, so guys, here in this session is primarily focused around MuleSoft, right? So MuleSoft is a Salesforce product now. So I'm not sure how many of you are aware, but then, a couple of years back, there was some acquisition where, MuleSoft was acquired by Salesforce. And now MuleSoft is an offering in integration space from Salesforce. Okay. So as I'm telling, so MuleSoft is an offering in integration space, right? So integration space, or people also call it as a middleware. Okay, so just to tell you, a lot of people, understand integration and middleware as the same thing, but ideally, though, that is not true. So integration is a superset which has multiple things, and middleware is a subset of it. Okay, and what is middleware? What is the need of middleware? We will understand. But as the name suggests, what we can, infer is that middleware would be something which will act as an intermediary between two parties, right? So, for example, you and myself are talking right now. So, this GoToMeeting is an intermediator. GoToMeeting is facilitating this integration between you and me, right? So, somewhere in enterprises, right, when we work in the industry, so there is a need of this kind of middleman, and MuleSoft is one such product in that category, and MuleSoft comes from Salesforce. Now this Mule has different versions. Right now the Mule latest version in the market is Mule 4. Again, within that 4 there are subversions, so I would say 4.3.0 is the latest version we have, and our training will be on the latest version. That is Mule 4 is the, it was one of the biggest release we had from the Mule, right? I think it came up in 2018, and under that we have multiple subversions, which is 4.3.0 is the latest version in the market, and this training will be focused on that. Now, before I start talking about product directly, right, I always have a tendency to talk little bit on integration, but I feel the people who have joined today are more or less from integration space, so they must be knowing what is integration and all. But since I'm recording this demo, maybe some other people would be referring it later on. So I just want to go with the natural, flow what I used to take. So let's talk a little bit about history of MuleSoft. So Mule is a lightweight Java based ESB. Okay, so that is how they started their journey. Okay, if I would have looked at the definition of the MuleSoft maybe 5-6 years back, so I might have said Mule started its journey as a lightweight Java based ESB. So now when I say this term, a lot of people will presume that to learn Mule, knowledge of Java is mandatory. So this used to be true until few years back. Now MuleSoft has a roadmap where they're abstracting the Java completely and they're making it more intuitive. So these days, integration products, whatever we have in the market, are more intuitive. What is the meaning of intuitive? Intuitive means it's more drag and drop oriented or configurable, where you need not to write the code from scratch. There are certain products or the components which are readily available. You need to configure those components as per the business need, and your job is done. So which may, so intuitive would mean the minimal coding is required. It is more drag and drop or configurable, and your job is done, right? So with Mule 4 being there, the Java is there behind the scenes, but from the developer perspective, the role of Java has diminished, you know, substantially, and that is where uh, high expertise from Java is not required at all. If you have little bit idea about the OOPS concept, okay, OOPS means object oriented programming. So when I say object oriented programming, what does that mean? So if you have basic idea about what is a class, what is an interface, okay, what is inheritance, what is polymorphism. If you have this much idea, it is more than sufficient. Even if you do not have idea about this, that's okay. If you must know what is object, okay, what is array, that's it. Because the array or array list, because these are 2 3 terminologies which comes from Java, like object, array list, hash maps. This come from Java, but even if you do not know, you need not to bother much. There is nothing much needed from the Java in order to develop an expertise on these tools. Even I am myself not a Java expert, but I've been working for quite a few time and have been able to deliver multiple projects on Mule. So you need not to bother at all, right? So then your next question might be, what is the prerequisite for this, right? So the prerequisite for this Mule are basic knowledge of XML, JSON, some idea about scope concepts, some idea about REST concepts. Okay, this is very much required not only in Mule. If you start learning any integration tool for that matter, you would definitely need these 3 or 4 concepts, right? Because these, and this is not only required from integration standpoint. As we are moving to cloud, these concepts, specifically JSON and REST, are becoming significantly important, right? And the good part is all these things would be covered as part of this training, so you need not to bother much. You just need to focus on what I'm doing in the sessions, whatever assignments I'm giving you, and your job should be done, right? So what I said is Mule started its journey, right? Mule started its journey as a lightweight Java based ESB. So when I say it started the journey, then where it is now, right? So Mule is one such product in the market right now which can take care of your holistic needs of integration. When I say holistic needs of integration, it can take care of different types of integrations we come across in the industry. So in the industry, we will have a need of application integration. We will have a need of data integration. Okay, we will have the need of B2B slash API integration. We will have need of API based integration, and MuleSoft is capable of taking care of all different types of integration. That makes it all the more demanding in the market. And another good part is it supports the complete life cycle of integration. There are certain products in the market which used to be very demanding, but they could never take care of the complete holistic need, even for a single category. So, for example, if I'm talking about the application integration, so there were products which were, like awesome in terms of application integration, but they lagged in security. Okay, maybe they lacked in security. They lacked the capabilities like caching. They lacked the capability like analytics. So what used to happen is companies needed to purchase some additional products on the top of existing middleware products to meet the overall integration needs. But what has happened with MuleSoft is MuleSoft has come up with so many offerings that it is sufficient to take care of the holistic needs of integration. And that is where you would see the bigger enterprises are preferring MuleSoft over any other product in the market, because bigger enterprises doesn't care much about the cost, but they look for a product which is more proven, which is more robust, which can take care of the complex integration business use cases. And more importantly, this product should be complete, because we as a developer think more from the development standpoint, but when companies invest time and money in selecting a product, they look for operational excellence. See, integration you can develop in maybe Dell Boomi is another product. Even I take trainings on Dell Boomi, MuleSoft, Oracle Integration Cloud, SnapLogic. But operational excellence is another important thing. Once their code goes live, right? Once it is live, how well they can manage the product, how robust is the product in terms of giving the some of the out of the box reports, out of the box analytics, because those things will drive the value for the business. Okay, so those out of the box capabilities makes it really demanding product. And another important aspect as part of operational excellence is, see, when you have a single product taking care of your overall needs, you need not to have multiple teams within your support, right? So for example, when people earlier were working on Oracle SOA, right? So they used to also purchase Oracle Service Bus to develop some proxies. Even some of the customers were also purchasing Oracle API Gateway. Now what they used to do is they had to maintain 2-3 different teams, right? Now single MuleSoft team is sufficient because MuleSoft as a product offers all those things which were there in these 3 different products, right? So that makes their operations cost effective. That is another reason why MuleSoft has a more demand. Now, when I talk about ESB, so it started its journey as an ESB and now it is on the path of iPaaS. Okay, now the latest trend in the integration space is iPaaS. iPaaS stands for Integration Platform as a Service. And what does ESB stand for? ESB stands for Enterprise Service Bus. So now when you're in integration, it's very, very important to understand few commonly used jargons about integration, right? Some of the jargons are Enterprise Service Bus, iPaaS, SOA, which stands for Service Oriented Architecture. Then another jargon is orchestration. Okay. Then another jargon is message broker. Right. So whenever you're working in an integration space, you will hear these terminologies very, very frequently. So first, let's talk about enterprise service bus. So enterprise service bus is an architecture which facilitates loosely coupled integration of disparate applications. Yes. So it is an architecture. So enterprise service bus is not a product. It is an architecture. So there are different products which implements this architecture. And what does the architecture do? It helps in loosely coupled integration of disparate application. So it becomes very, very important to understand what is the meaning of loosely coupled integration.
Sumit,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. I think Victor has left the meeting. Can you
That's okay.
maybe? Yeah.
Let's continue.
Yes.
So what is the meaning of loosely coupled integration? Or rather, I want to say what is the meaning of integration as first of all, right? So first, let's understand what is integration. The process of combining two or more applications for achieving the business values is integration for me. Okay.
Sorry, stop, please. I'm having internet problem. Try to make the recording available.
Yeah, I'll be sharing the recording, not a problem.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
So see, it's very important to understand, sentence by sentence, word by word, because in many trainings you will hear these jargons very frequently. But if somebody asks you these basic questions in the interview, you might fall short of words, which ideally should not happen, right? So what I'm saying is, we said Mule started its journey as an ESB. ESB is an architecture that facilitates loosely coupled integration of disparate application, right? So first we need to understand what is loosely coupled integration, and before we understand loosely coupled integration, we also need to understand what is integration. So integration is the process of combining 2 or more applications. So I'll give you an example. So you must have heard of something called a CRM. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. So you go and purchase different products. So for example, you must be using some services from the telephone services provider, right? So you must be based on the country where you are located, you must be leveraging some of the mobile or wireless service provider services to make the calls or to browse the internet. So now what happens is whenever you purchase certain connections from them, right, they will maintain a system called as a CRM where they will maintain the data about all their customers, okay, which is called as customer relationship management system. Some of the examples of CRM are Siebel is one example of CRM. Salesforce is another example of CRM. We have MS Dynamics. These all are examples of CRM. Now, whenever this data is generated or whenever this data is generated in a CRM, this data is required for other systems also. So for example, there is a system which is responsible for doing all the finance related stuff where the invoicing for the customer is happening, right? So then what happens is, let's say there is another product called as Oracle Financials. Okay, where we have all the finance related stuff happening. Now, whenever a customer is created in the CRM, the enterprise might want, hey guys, I'll request you to go on mute if you're not speaking. Okay, this is creating a little bit disturbance for me. So what I was saying is, whenever a customer data is created in a CRM, the enterprise would want the same data to be available in Oracle Financials. They do not want to do a data duplication, or they do not want to go via manual procedure wherein they pull that data and they manually insert it over there or they manually type it. Because first of all, one way is that we see that data, so there might be some human intervention where a person is looking at the data from the CRM and filling the same data in Oracle Financials, which might lead to a lot of discrepancies. Another way is we might take an export from the CRM and then upload the same data on Oracle Financials, which is possible, but again that requires manual intervention, right? And also it might induce some delay which customer may not want. Let's say customer wants the moment the data is created over here, the same data should be visible over here, maybe immediately or maybe after some time, without any manual intervention. So in all such scenarios, we need some sort of integration, right? Now, integration is the process of collaboration. Integration is the process of combining two or more applications. So from the end user perspective, everything should look as connected. So this is a mechanism of giving connected experience to the customer. But internally, if I look at the IT architecture, we might be using n number of products catering different needs, but eventually these different products somehow have to be interconnected to drive the business benefits, right? So now this integration can be point-to-point integration. What is the meaning of point-to-point integration? Point-to-point integration means that the two applications are talking to each other directly without any middleman in between, right? So what happens is, for example, there are different ways of achieving integrations. So Oracle Financials might expose some database, it might expose some API, it might expose some queue to the source party who wants to establish the connectivity with Oracle Financials. Okay, so with these days, what is happening is when the applications are moving on the cloud, right? Because see, you have to understand that integration is not something which has its existence of its own. Integration always relies on the peer applications which are actually supposed to be integrated, right? If I'm an integration consultant, I always need to figure out first that which are the applications that are required to be integrated. Where are those applications hosted? Are those on cloud or are they on premises, right? So, and accordingly, I will design my architecture. Accordingly, I will basically take some important decisions before I actually start the implementation. So now what I'm trying to say is, as majority of the applications are being moved to the cloud, the more common way of achieving the integrations these days is web-based APIs. Because when we are moving something on the cloud, so that means it is accessible over the web, it is accessible over the internet, and the best way of exchanging the data over the web is via APIs, right? So this Oracle Financials might expose some APIs. Now, what does API stand for? API stands for Application Programming Interface. For now, you can think API is a mechanism of exposing the business functionality, abstracting the underlying complexity. If I do not want to expose the technology which I have used to implement something, if I don't want to expose the business logic, I just want to expose a function over the internet where you give some input and you get some output, right? For all such needs, APIs are the best thing, right? So for example, I'll give you an example. You want to switch on your television. So you have got a remote, right? So the moment you press a on button on your remote, lot of internal things might be happening within the machinery which is there in the internet. There are some radio frequency signals which are being exchanged, but that complexity is abstracted from you. You don't bother about that. You have been given an interface. So a remote is an interface which helps you to establish the connectivity with the television, right? Similarly, APIs are the interface which will help you to talk to an application. You need not to bother what is the language in which those applications are written. You need not to bother that what n number of things are executing in the backend. You have been just given an interface. You leverage that interface whenever you want to talk to any application. So what the point I was trying to make is the point-to-point integrations. What happens is source and target applications. Okay, source and target applications talk to each other directly, which means there is no intermediator. So see, when we have small chunk of data being exchanged, this kind of communication looks perfect. It looks something which is very smooth. But as your business grows, or as the number of applications which need to talk to each other grows, you will realize that point-to-point integrations become less of or bunch of connections. It becomes difficult to manage, it becomes difficult to scale, it becomes difficult to upgrade, and that is where people move away from point to point integration and they start adopting loosely coupled integration. Why? Because in point to point integration, what happens is if the target application is down or fails, the source needs to submit the request again. Isn't it? So for example, the integration is happening between CRM and Oracle Financials, and if the Oracle Financials is not available, right? So CRM will always need to publish the data once again, right? So there is an overhead on CRM. CRM job, actual job is to manage the details about the customer, right? But now there is an overhead of doing the integration also. So what happens is the overhead related to integration is passed to respective applications, which is ideally not their job. Their ideal job is they cater to some business need, and ideally they should respect to that. But if we do point-to-point integrations, we might need to do a lot of custom coding at each application end to basically achieve the integration. Again, the next thing is scaling of integrations is tough. If we have to scale up the integrations, again it is because there are a lot of dependencies on the different applications, and that is where organizations are adopting or loosely coupled integration. So loosely coupled means, as the name suggests, the dependency among the systems which are being integrated is minimal. Okay, loosely coupled means the dependency among the systems which are being integrated is minimal. So if let's say one of the systems is not available, then also it doesn't matter. Still, you should be able to achieve the integration. Such mechanism of integration is called as loosely coupled integration. And who can help you to do this kind of integration? So if this is your source system and this is your target system, right? So then you need some middleman. That middleman is nothing but middleware, and that middleware product, right, can be based on an architecture called as ESB architecture, and that whole becomes, so that middleware completely can be MuleSoft, right? So MuleSoft is a middleware that leverages enterprise service bus architecture to achieve loosely coupled integration between the source and target. So now the question is MuleSoft only the product? No, there are a lot of other products also in the market. So some of the competitors to MuleSoft are Delbhoomi or Apple Integration Cloud, SnapLogic, Logic Apps. We have got something called as Jitterbit. These all are competitors to MuleSoft, right? But now, whenever you talk about APIs, okay, whenever you talk about APIs, about which I'll talk very frequently, right? Because APIs are the core these days to achieve the integration. MuleSoft ranks first. Okay, whenever we talk about the API, MuleSoft ranks first. Whenever we have more complex integration scenarios, MuleSoft is number one. The only thing is with MuleSoft, the learning curve is little big. Okay, so for example, if I talk about Boomi, it is easy to use, right? The learning curve is not so big, but if you come across very complex integration scenarios, then those things might not be so easy to do in Boomi, which can really happen very easily in MuleSoft, right? So each product has its own advantages and disadvantages. The biggest advantage of MuleSoft, I would say, is their API solution is number one in the market, and it is a complete package which can take care of overall needs of integration. After purchasing MuleSoft, you might not need any other product for your integration needs, which may not be the case with other integration solutions we have in the market, right? So for those, we always need to get something or other to basically achieve the overall business requirements. Any questions so far?
Is it open source MuleSoft, Sumit? I mean, as you mentioned, 4.3 version, right?
So MuleSoft
Yeah.
offers two editions.
Okay.
One is community edition, which is typically free, okay, but it has limited features, and other is enterprise edition, which is licensed. This one is licensed. Okay, so their community edition is open source, but the enterprise edition is licensed.
Yes. So when it will be launched? I mean, any idea? MuleSoft. I mean, Sumit. I mean, when it was started?
So I don't know the exact year, but it has been there in market for around 8 to 10 years, I think now.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So now,
As of now, looks fine. Yeah. Fine.
Yeah, I know it is very hot because it's not that whatever product we had 7 8 years back, it is not the same product anymore. Okay, there has been so many changes, so many reforms and revolutions
Yes.
within the product, right? And now, as I told you,
Yes.
their
Yes.
journey is towards iPaaS. Okay. Now the next thing I want to talk about is iPaaS, which stands for Integration Platform as a Service. So now whenever you talk about integrations these days, or integrations on cloud, okay, then you will always hear this iPaaS. Now, whenever you talk about cloud computing, first of all, right? So in cloud computing, there are three different jargons which you will come across: SaaS, software as a service; PaaS, platform as a service; infrastructure as a service, right? So now this iPaaS is a sub part of PaaS. So I, I consider any platform as an iPaaS where we can develop integrations, deploy integrations, and manage integrations. So a single platform from where a user can develop, deploy, and manage integrations is an iPaaS solution. And MuleSoft has their iPaaS offering, which is also called as Anypoint Platform. Anypoint Platform means, so Anypoint means it can help you to connect to any touch point, regardless of the fact whether it is on-prem or cloud. And platform comes from this iPaaS, so it is a single cloud-based platform where you can manage complete life cycle of integration. Okay, so complete life cycle means, so you do plan, typically after that you do design, you do development, right? You do testing, you do deployment, and then you manage those integrations, right? So everything can be taken care from a single platform, and that iPaaS offering of MuleSoft is called as MuleSoft Anypoint Platform. Okay, so if you want to start working on a MuleSoft Anypoint platform, you just need the internet connection. That's it. Okay, you just need the internet connection, and you can get started with the Anypoint platform, and you can start with the designing, with the then you can get into the development, deployment. Everything can be done from the single Anypoint platform. Okay, you don't need to. So in earlier days, what used to happen is, first of all, you had to procure the licenses, then you had to get those servers, storages, networking. So it used to take a lot of time to get the complete platform setup being done, and then you start your development, which is not the case anymore. These days, everything is there, ready made. You just need to procure your subscription, and you should have the internet connection, and then you can get started. So MuleSoft has got an iPaaS offering called as Anypoint Platform, where you have got different components. So within Anypoint Platform also, we have different components which helps us to take care of different needs related to integration. When you start working on integration, there are different needs, and for each of the need, there is a component or a tool within Anypoint platform that will make your life easier. Right? Now, having said all this thing, whenever you start working on Mule, you will also hear something about Anypoint Studio. What is Anypoint Studio? It is an Eclipse based IDE. What does IDE stand for? Integrated Development Environment, where you can do the development of your integration solution. So the point I'm trying to make is that actually there is Anypoint platform where you have got different components to do the overall, to basically do the overall activities related to the integration. But then they also have got a studio. If at all you want to do the development in your machine and not an internet based platform, then you can get Anypoint Studio and you can do the development there, and rest of the steps you can do the on the Anypoint platform. Actually, in the Anypoint platform also you can do the development, but that offering which facilitates you to do the development within Anypoint platform is evolving. It has improved a lot, but still the recommendation from MuleSoft is that for now, if you want to do the development, you do it on Anypoint Studio, and rest of the things you can manage from Anypoint platform. So the point I'm trying to make is, whenever you're working on MuleSoft, the two things which you are going to make use of very frequently are Anypoint platform and Anypoint Studio. So Anypoint platform, as the name suggests, is a iPaaS offering from MuleSoft, which helps you to design, develop, deploy, and manage the integration completely from a single place. Whereas Anypoint Studio, you can say, is a subset of Anypoint platform. In case you want to do some complex integrations, for those, the development part can be implemented in Anypoint Studio, because Anypoint Studio is more mature as far as the development is concerned, and later on you can move your solution onto the Anypoint platform, right? So Anypoint, eventually everything will be on the Anypoint platform, but just for your coding purpose or for development purpose, you can use Anypoint Studio, right? So this Anypoint Studio will be available on the internet. You can download it, right? So for example, if in case you want to download it, I have opened the link. So this is not this one. This is the where you can get the Anypoint Studio. Can you see here? Download Anypoint Studio 7. So the current version of the Anypoint Studio is 7. So you can select the operating system. For example, it is Windows. You can give your job title, it's architect. You agree to the conditions and you hit the download. Right? So this, I will show you all the steps in detail, but just trying to give you an idea. That is how you get your Anypoint Studio using this link. And Anypoint platform just needs you to register online. How do you register online? You go here. This is the link for Anypoint, anypoint.mulesoft.com. Okay, where you have to register. You have to register on anypoint.mulesoft.com. So if your organization has already given you credentials, very good. If not, what you have to do is, I'll just sign out one. So you have to just go to this path, anypoint.mulesoft.com, and if you do not have credentials, you can go here and sign up. So you sign up and you will get 1 month trial version where you can implement your integrations, where you can explore all the different features of Anypoint platform. That's it. You don't need to do any kind of installation, and once you log in, your home page will look like this. So this is your landing page for the Anypoint platform, and within this you can see on the left side there is a hamburger button where you can find different things. You have got something called as I was telling, that there are different tools within Anypoint platform which takes care of different needs of integration. You have got Design Center, which helps you to design your APIs. You have got Exchange, where you can publish your APIs. You have got Management Center, again within which you have multiple sub items: access management, API manager, runtime manager, visualizer, monitoring, secret manager. Okay, so the point I'm trying to say is there are different tools within a single offering called as Anypoint platform, and that eventually will help you to take care of all the needs. In the first session, you may not be able to absorb everything of it. Okay, and I don't want you to absorb it, because even if I explain you everything right away, you will not be able to get it. We will take one example, we will go through the complete life cycle, and that is how you will start absorbing that which particular component of Anypoint platform is leveraged for which particular purpose, right? But it is really robust. You have all these things. How do you get it? Anypoint platform, you just have given the endpoint. You have to launch this URL, you have to register yourself over here. How do you get the Anypoint Studio? For this I've given the URL. You can get the installable. One thing you have to understand is Anypoint Studio is only for development of your integrations. So whatever logic you will write, for that only this is required. Rest all things you can take care from Anypoint platform, right? Any questions?
No, Sumit, looks fine. Yeah.
So now the next thing is, yeah.
Sorry, sorry to, so for any point platform and for any point studio, it will only 30 days only free trial, right? You were saying. Later, how I can use?
So AnyPoint Studio you can use for as much time you want. There is no such
Okay.
restriction. For
Okay.
AnyPoint
Okay.
platform, you will have 30 minutes. Oh, sorry, 30 days
30 days. Yeah.
subscription, and then you can create one more. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Thank you.
Okay. So you can create one more. They don't charge for it. Even they don't validate your email IDs and all. To be very honest, I mean,
I
just
got.
any email ID you can give, and
Yeah.
your account will be done.
Yes. Yes, Sumit. I got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So now another thing is, see, whenever we are talking about the integration or middleware product, right, we need to understand what are they doing, right? So we understand that they will make two or more components to talk to each other. So some of the important traits which are expected, or some of the important tasks which middleware product will do, is sometimes it may do validation. So some data is coming, whether that data is having the, all the values which are required for the target system or not. Those kind of validations can be done, right? Then it might do enrichment. These all jargons you will hear very frequently when you are working in integration. So what is enrichment? The process of adding or removing the data from actual message. What is message? So I was telling, right, some information might come from some source application over here, right, which eventually need to go into the Oracle financials. So I'm calling that as a message. In integration world, those messages or data are more are essentially called as payload. So you will hear this terminology called as payload very frequently. Payload is the data or message which is sent from source, or which is not sent, I would say, which is exchanged between different applications.
Two different
Yeah,
applications. Yeah.
and this data format, this payload format, can be, it can be some CSV. What is CSV? Comma separated values. Okay, it can be XML. Okay, it can be JSON. Okay, it can be some unstructured data also. So this XML, JSON, CSV are the subclassifications of structured data, right? These are the different ways we can store the structured data, right? Sometimes there can be some unstructured data also. So there can be some binary data also, which has to be passed from the source to the target applications. But more predominantly, you will see formats being exchanged. And among these three also, the one which is very prominently being used right now is JSON. Okay, so I hope you, because it is important to pick up about these jargons. So the process of adding the data, adding or removing the data from actual message or payload, right? So that is called as enrichment. I'll give you an example also. Okay. So for example, there is a source application from where we are getting the customer ID. Yeah. And in the target application, we have to pass the customer. In the target application, there is a target application where we have to pass customer ID and one more thing, that is customer name, right? But then see, target application will not accept the customer data until and unless both the things are passed, but the source is passing you only customer ID, right? So what you might need to do is, in between you might need to invoke some other system, isn't it? In between you might need to invoke some other system to retrieve the customer name, right? And that customer name you will enrich in the original message, and then you will pass the information to the target system. Are you getting what I'm saying? So you just got
Yes.
customer ID. There might be some other system sitting over here, right? So first you call that system, you get the name also, you enrich your original payload, and then you pass on to the target system. Then you do transformation. Transformation means conversion of data from one format to another. So when I say one format to another, people always think like, let's say XML to JSON or JSON to XML. That may be one scenario. Sometimes it might be JSON to JSON also, right? What does that mean? When it will be JSON to JSON or XML to XML,
As
when the
one way.
so when the structures are different, right?
Yes, Sumit.
Yeah, when the structures are different, we might need this kind of thing. Then another scenario we have is orchestration. Yeah. What is the meaning of orchestration? It is a process of combining discrete set of services into single unit. That is orchestration. So sometimes what happens is we might need to call some other services, or right. So for example, we got one information and we need to send a holistic information about some entity to the target system. So in between we might need to call a lot of other services, merge all that information together, and then pass the complete set of information to the target application. So that is where orchestration comes in. Then we do routing, right? So we get some information and we might need to route to different application, right? For example, you got your customer created in CRM, and same information you might need to pass it on to your ERP, right? You might need to pass it on to your master data hub, right? There is something called as master data repository which organizations will maintain, right? So the same information when needs to be passed to multiple multiple systems, then it is routing. And sometimes it is like more like content based routing, for example. Okay, what does content based routing means? uh, so for example, when the information comes in, you want to evaluate certain parameter, and on the basis of that you want to decide whether it will go to target application A or target application B, right? So those kind of things you do in the integration products. Then likewise there are a lot of other things also, but these are the basic things you do: validation, enrichment, transformation, orchestration, routing. Sometimes you do something called as filtering. You have to filter something and then you have to pass only relevant information, right? So for example, source might be passing you hundreds of things, but your target might need only 10 things out of that. So you filter the information and you pass only the relevant information. So all these things are expected from any integration product, and MuleSoft has got different components which will facilitate you to do all these different operations which are very frequently required in integration space, right? Any questions?
No, Sumit.
Okay. Now next thing is one more thing I wanted to cover is SOA, right? So we talk a lot about SOA also. Generally, all the ESBs we work on, right? These will adhere to SOA principles. So we need to understand what is SOA. Right? SOA stands for service oriented architecture. SOA stands for service oriented architecture. So which means what you see the full form. Full form says the any architecture. First of all, it is not a tool; it is an architecture which adheres to the service orientation, which means the orientation of this architecture is around services. Whenever we are leveraging service oriented architecture, the complete problem statement is solutionized. Whenever we solve any problem statement using service oriented architecture, it is solutionized with the help of bunch of services. Okay, or you can say web services. Okay, so in service oriented architecture, there are parties like service consumer, right? There is a party called a service provider, and this architecture says that anything which we want to solutionize, we have to do it with the help of services. So this architecture recommends the usage of reusable web services, because web services are reusable, these are easily accessible. This makes the less dependency, or source or target applications can interact with each other in a better way. So nowadays we are hearing a lot about SOA. We are hearing a lot about APIs. So API's origin is from actually this SOA only, right? Because SOA is a concept which says that anything which you need to solve, you have to do it with the help of services, and these services are nothing but web service, right? So what is a web service? Web service is a software function provided at a network address over the web. Okay, so now what does that mean? It means web service is nothing like a function. So in your traditional programming languages, whenever we had to write some logic, we used to write it with the help of functions, right? So the definition says web service is also like a function. The difference being it is available over the web. It is hosted over a server which is accessible over the web, and it abstracts the underlying complexity. So when you are working on the web services, whether you develop the web service on Java, whether you develop a web service on PHP or .NET, that does not change the way the source or target application interacts with it. This concept of web services abstracts the underlying complexity. It gives a uniform mechanism of establishing the connectivity, and since it is accessible over the web, so it can be easily integrated without much dependency, without much of the complexity. It can be easily integrated. So service oriented architecture is a concept of solutionizing everything with the help of services. And now just to tell you, this web, a lot of people get confused between web service, API and all that thing. I would say web service is a subset of API. Okay, so what happens in our industry is a lot of people think API is only about REST and SOAP. Or nowadays the people who are 3 or 4 years experience guys, they are thinking APIs means only REST, that's it. This is a wrong understanding. API is not only about REST. You can say REST API is one type of API. Okay, REST API is one type of API. API is a bigger umbrella. We can have different types of APIs. Okay, and one of those API types is REST API. So what I mean is, see, API, as I told, stands for Application Programming Interface, right? API. So what is the reason why we use APIs? Because we want to enable a channel that allows the outside world to talk to a specific application. So you can say API is like a mechanism. It is like an entry point into an application. Okay, it's an entry point into an application without worrying about the underlying complexity in the application. So APIs, some procedures can be APIs. Okay, some Linux subroutines can be APIs. Okay, even your Java interfaces or packages, these can be APIs. Your web services are also one type of APIs. So APIs which are used to do the communication over the web are nothing but web services. So the point I'm trying to say is API is an umbrella. The whole purpose of having an API is to enable the communication between two or more applications without letting the underlying complexity of the application to be exposed. Right now, these two applications can exchange the data behind the corporate firewall. There might be a need when we want to exchange the data over the web. Now, when the applications are moving on the cloud, we are coming across the use cases when the application needs to exchange the data over the web, and that is where the need of such APIs are increasing, which are capable of exchanging the data over the web, and such kind of APIs are actually nothing but web services, or you call these as REST based APIs or SOAP based APIs. Okay, actually these are one and the same thing, but there is a very minor difference in a way that API has got certain standards. API has got a complete life cycle, and you have to adhere to that complete life cycle so that it can actually classify as a standard API. Okay, so the point I'm trying to say is API is umbrella, which where we can have different types of APIs. The kind of APIs which enables the communication over the web are web services, and these can be of different protocol, right? So since many of you come from integration background, you must be knowing these web services again exchange the data over some protocol which can be SOAP or HTTP, and that is where we have SOAP or REST based APIs. Such API which is able to exchange the data over the web adhering to protocols like REST or SOAP, right? Nothing more than that. There are different people giving different arguments about APIs and all, but it is no more different. But again, another important point I would like to say is now when you design your APIs, you have to follow certain standards. You have to make sure that your APIs are descriptive. So that what is the meaning of descriptive? So descriptive means that you should publish the enough details about the API so that any third party can easily consume your API. Because the whole purpose of designing the APIs is that you want different parties to come and collaborate within specific application, and the collaboration can only happen effectively when your APIs are descriptive, when your APIs are following all the standards. The web services was kind of a standard which was not a proactive standard. Web services generally enterprises used to use, like they first got the need and then they used to develop the web services. Okay, but how this APIs are little different is these are proactively developed. You even before you identify a business need, you should always start developing the APIs to make your application easily accessible by other applications. Okay, and also this has got some more standards to be adhered, and that is why we are talking a lot about APIs these days. I'll keep on talking on this, but I'll take a pause over here and will ask if you have any questions here, and if not, we'll wind up for today and we'll continue in the next session.
Looks fine, Sumit, as of now. I think I'm looking into that APIs and I'm a bit confused in the API part, Sumit.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what I'm saying is API is any piece of code that will
Okay.
let you to expose your business logic. Okay, or I would not say business logic, business functionality without
Yes.
letting the business logic being exposed. Okay, so for example, calculator. Okay, you go to calculator, you give some inputs and you
Okay.
get the output. You don't know how it is happening internally. Do you need to know? No, right?
Oh, yeah. No,
Right?
Sumit. Yeah.
You don't need to know how it is happening. So for example, you play a
Correct.
video, right?
Correct.
Or
Yeah. Agree.
so you don't need to know what is happening inside, right?
Yeah.
You
Got it.
go to ATM, you swipe your card, right? So the moment you swipe your card, internally some business functionalities are getting triggered. But do you need to know the complexity? No.
No.
Similarly, on a similar note, for
Okay.
example, I want to interact with an application which is accessible over the web,
Correct.
right? I don't want to know what is the code written inside that application. I don't want to know the technology stack of that application. What I want
Okay.
is I should give some input and it should be return me that output. That's it.
Okay.
So it is more like functions. In functions, so for example, I have written one function and you want to use it. Do you need to know what is the logic I have written inside? No, right?
No, Sumit. Yeah.
You just need to know the name of the function. You need to know the parameters, data type, return type. That's it. Similarly,
Yes.
APIs.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so there are two things. One is API service, API provider, and API consumer. So, if you are API consumer,
Okay.
someone who has developed the API will give you all those information. Then only you can consume the API, right?
Correct.
See,
Yeah.
if
Then
I developed any function, and if I will give you sufficient details to call my function, then only you can reuse it, isn't it?
yes. 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 Agree.
So same is the case with the API. So whenever you are developing an API, you have to make it descriptive. If you will make it descriptive, then only more and more people will consume it. Otherwise, people will not find it user friendly.
Correct. Yeah. Now
Now,
I got it,
again,
Sumit. Yeah.
these APIs are of different types. Your procedure is also like an API. Your Java interface is an API. But the APIs which are accessible over the web. So what is API helping in? API is helping in exchanging the data, isn't it? So from one application, I can pass on the data to other. Now, when I have to exchange this data over the web, I make use of web-based APIs. What are those web-based APIs? SOAP services or SOAP APIs. Now, this web services and APIs technically are more or less same, but from the standard standpoint, these are little different. These are different in a way. So web services generally we used to develop for internal consumption. So we have got an enterprise, we have got four applications, and we just need the communication among them. But APIs are generally developed with more standards such that down the line, if tomorrow we have to expose this to the public, maybe our partners, right? Maybe external customers, they should be also able to interact with our APIs, and that can only happen when you make it more user friendly, when you make it more descriptive. That is what I'm trying to say, right? So for example, I'll give you another example. So there are different people who give different definition of APIs. So you purchase a product, let's say you purchase iPhone. Now probably with iPhone there will be some user manual. Okay, these days user manual is not in the form of a paper. There might be some digital form, right? There might be some PDF or some soft copy which explains about different features of iPhone, isn't it?
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
if that will not be descriptive, if that will not be descriptive, just give me a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Sure.
So what I'm trying to say is, if that will not be descriptive, you will not like to purchase the iPhone, right? So
Yes. Yes, Sumit.
APIs are developed with a thought process that it has to be really descriptive. It has to adhere to all the standards, and these are more commonly being used for public usage in the way that these should not be designed for internal consumption, but keeping in mind that tomorrow I might need to make this data available to the target or to the outer world also, which might be your partners, okay, which might be your again other customers. So I'll give you another example. So for example, uh, nobody knew about UPI payment and all, few years back. These concepts were not existing.
Yeah.
So banks have developed a lot of APIs, right? Eventually the transactions have to be facilitated by bank, right? Isn't it? Your money gets credited into your bank account, it gets deducted from your bank account. So bank cannot give the access to their database to the fintech companies like Paytm or PhonePe or Google Pay, right? What bank will do? Bank doesn't want to give the access, but bank at the same time wants to increase their business. So they started developing APIs. They told, okay, this is my API. If you want to add the amount, use this part of the API. If you want to know the balance, use this part of the API. They are not giving the access to the complete database. They are giving access to the limited functionality with the help of APIs. And since these are accessible over the web, it can be easily integrated. Since one API can be consumed by multiple people, so these are reusable also, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Is it clear now?
Yes, Sumit. No, I got a clear information about API. Yeah, thanks for information.
Yeah.
I think yeah, you mentioned
Yeah.
prerequisites to learn this MuleSoft is XML, right? XML